Ah, the Sonic franchise. Something that is more divisive than quite possibly anything on this world. This is a series that has changed a lot over the last 30 years. And even to the casual observer, some may say that this series reboots with every other release. And they might not be wrong about that. We've experienced a lot of highs with the Sonic franchise, and as you guys are all aware of, there's definitely been some lows. The Sonic franchise is something to me that has been looking for an identity for a very long time, and I would say over the last 10 or 12 years they probably have hit that note and really found their stride as to what they want to be. But with the last game, Sonic Forces, which did not do that well amongst fans and critics, it looks like they want to go into a completely new direction with Sonic Frontiers. But what if I were to tell you once upon a time there was an actual consistent gameplay style for Sonic? Well, long story short, there was. Obviously, if you're watching this video, you understand that that's the case. The first 10 years of Sonic really do embody a very consistent, faithful style of gameplay that was not a rough transition to 3D. It was actually a great one, because to me, the transition couldn't have been any better. What we're going to cover today is the first 10 years of Sonic, from its inception all the way to the 10th anniversary. We're going to break down gameplay, storytelling, atmosphere, aesthetic of the first 2D Sonic games and how they transitioned really well in the adventure titles. And we're also going to debunk this nonsense that Sonic had a rough transition to 3D. So kick back, relax, enjoy the video, and let's roll the clip. So as many of you guys may know, I really do like replaying the 2D Sonic games, as well as the adventure games. I'm basically an adventure fanboy. So this video, we're gonna straight up bash the meta era and talk shit about anyone who likes it. No, I'm just kidding, I'm not gonna do that. But really, one thing that stands out to me about the 2D and the 3D Sonic games in the first 10 years is just how similar they are. It really feels like I'm playing the exact same game, just one is in 2D and the other is in 3D. So for this video, primarily, I will be comparing Sonic 1, 2, and 3 to Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. And realistically, mainly Sonic 2 and 3. But I guess the first place to start off in this video is to kind of lay out, like, what is the objective of a Sonic game in the first place for those who don't know, or for those who just want to understand my argument. Let's start with 2D Sonic. Very simple. The objective of the level is to get from point A to point B. You want to get from the beginning of the stage to the end of the stage. Now, what are the objectives of the adventure games? Well, you have to get from point A to point B. And thus, that is the end of the video. The Sonic adventure games are the best. The meta era sucks. Let's f***ing go. Alright, I'm just kidding. There's a lot we still gotta get into. In all seriousness, what makes these games so similar is the core gameplay mechanics. So let's really break that down and get into it. And to get into my point, Takashi Iizuka, who was the head of Sonic Team, recently said in an interview with 4Gamer, basically the point that I'm about to lay out to you guys, which is that the 3D Sonic adventure games are basically the 2D games, just in 3D. Iizuka says himself that the hurdle of getting the 2D Sonic we knew and making it 3D was really high. The people around us were also skeptical and asked, will it really be fun? And if you're watching this video, you know my take on this. This game was super fun. However, when an image showing a looping part of Speed Highway appeared, everybody praised it, saying this is it. And Iizuka was right, this was it. With the adventure games, they really did successfully take that 2D formula and just make it 3D. Obviously, to piggyback off what I said before, the objective of both games is to get from point A to point B. However, it's a lot more than just going from point A to point B, because if that was the case, then Sonic Colors, Sonic Generation, Sonic Unleashed is the same as the 2D era, and that is just not the case. What makes the Sonic Adventure and the classic Sonic games so similar is the way that you get to point A to point B. And this is one of the major reasons why I say it was a great transition to 3D and also a very faithful transition to 3D. The biggest thing about the first 10 years of Sonic is the momentum-based gameplay. Whether you're playing Sonic Adventure 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, or even Sonic Adventure 2, you will always find that the name of the game is speed. The objective for high-skill players is to clear the level as fast as possible by maintaining your speed through physics and momentum to manipulate the level design. Like when you're in Chemical Plant in Sonic 2 and you're going down that ramp and you curl into a ball. This is when you'll pick up the most speed, and it entirely relies on momentum to carry you to the fastest you can go in the level. This is super rewarding. And you'll also see this in Sonic Adventure 1 when you're going down Speed Highway. It's the same principle. And you know, we do not see this in the games anymore. Everyone knows this, it goes without saying. But truthfully, it really feels like when I'm playing this game, it also feels like I'm just playing the 3D version of this. has a very similar aesthetic. Sonic is just running around in an Eggman battleship that he just boarded, but we'll get into the aesthetic a little bit later. Are you starting to notice the similarities? Let's continue. As far as controlling Sonic, he has never controlled any better than he has in the first 10 years of the franchise. Literally from Sonic 1 to Sonic Adventure 2, you will find the most free-flowing controls and physics. Like, Sonic's jumps will have the perfect amount of weight on them, whether it's in the 2D games or the 3D games. The level of control that you have in Sonic in these games is unmatched. It's kind of a shame because they really haven't been able to replicate that, and it just feels like this formula is really what carried Sonic to greatness. Basically taking the formula of the 2D games and putting them into the 3D games was a huge success for the Sonic franchise. But anyways, enough of me rambling about my opinion, let's continue. The level designs in the 2D games was also very similar to the adventure titles as well. Especially when you look at a game like Sonic Adventure 1, that is probably the peak of Sonic level design. When you use a spin dash to break the game, or even when you play it normally, there's a lot of different paths that you could take, and it really adds a lot of flavor to the game. Especially these days, I'm still replaying these games and finding paths to this day. So it's always a gift that keeps on giving. And this philosophy is very similar in the 2D games as well, obviously. Especially if you look at a game like Sonic 3 and Knuckles, if you look at the map of some of these levels, they are insanely big. You can definitely tell the way that the Sonic Adventure 1 levels were set up was heavily inspired by Sonic 3 and Knuckles. The level design in the classic Sonic games and the adventure games was literally designed for replayability. Whether it comes to speedrunning, replaying the level because you got just a little bit better at it, or downright you just enjoy the super fun level design, you will always find yourself replaying the Sonic Adventure or the classic Sonic games. And one of the best aspects about these games are the multiple paths that you can take when you replay the level. And like in both games, the players that have the highest skills are able to find some of these paths to help them get through the levels faster and find new power-ups and light boxes, which, by the way, we don't see in the new Sonic games. We don't see any of these power-ups or light boxes, which we'll get to in a little bit. But as far as level design goes, although one game is in 2D and one is in 3D, the philosophy that really makes them great is present in both games. And really, if you think about it, that philosophy holds true for pretty much every aspect of these games. Like, everything that made the classic Sonic games great is present in the adventure games. It's very obvious that Sonic Adventure 1 and Sonic Adventure 2 were heavily inspired by the classic Sonic games. Now, to piggyback off of what I said before, think about the life boxes and power-ups that you find from exploring the levels. Now that I think about it, you don't even see that in Sonic games anymore. Granted, with the boost formula, it's a little bit more of a fast-paced level design that's a lot more linear, so obviously there isn't much exploration, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. The game is trying to do something completely different. What I'm trying to say is the parallels between the 2D classic Sonic games and the 3D adventure games is there when you think about the light boxes that you can find throughout the levels. I think it's a good feature to have. It's always rewarding to find something like that when you explore a piece of the level that you're not really maybe even supposed to find unless you look for it. There's something about finding an extra life or maybe even a shield, or probably one of my favorites, a ring magnet, that really makes exploration feel really worth it in these games. And think about games like Mario. Consistently throughout the 35-year history of Mario, he's always finding power-ups, and it's definitely one of the best parts of those games. One of the most iconic and marketable aspects about Sonic games is the life boxes. Like, just the images of them are so marketable. Like, they sell it on the merch, on the Jack Specific toys, even bouncing around on the little springs that you find throughout the level. Like, these are all things that are very recognizable about Sonic, and even though these are really most present in the first 10 years of the franchise, we don't see it as much, it's still marketed on the merch to this day. Like, when you think of Sonic, not only do you think about the rings and obviously the iconic blue silhouette of the character, you're also thinking about the springs, you're also thinking about the power-up boxes, and like I said, this is just another parallel that you find between the 2D games and the 3D adventure games. Now, the last quick thing I want to get into about the gameplay is Sonic's moveset. Obviously, on the surface level, he has the iconic speed and the spin dash, and both games rely on momentum and physics, but if you think about the moveset, and specifically in Sonic Adventure 2, where do you think some of these moves came from? You have the homing attack, you have the bounce attack, and obviously the spin dash of old. They didn't just invent these moves out of nowhere. If you look at even Sonic 3 and Knuckles, it kind of foreshadows the moves that we're gonna see. Specifically the homing attack. Like, if you think of the fire power-up in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, it's literally the exact same thing as the homing attack, just in 2D. And the homing attack was essential in Sonic Adventure 1 and Sonic Adventure 2 because it added a level of precision that was needed for 3D. Like, if you were just jumping like in the old Sonic games, it would not work out well in 3D. So it added a level of precision and skill that helps fully flesh out the controls for Sonic and makes them really smooth to control. Also, if you think of the bounce attack, where do you think that came from? They didn't just make that up either. That was also from Sonic 3 and Knuckles as well. If you get the bubble power up, you have the same exact ability as the bounce attack. It helps you attack enemies, and it's a really cool way to get up to higher platforms, and just another way to control the character. It's very smooth in both games. And obviously they had to put the spin dash in. Mainly in Sonic Adventure 1, it's really good, but it also serves the same primary function in Sonic Adventure 2 as well. It's a way to gain speed from a standstill, and in both games you could use it to find shortcuts and maneuver in different ways. So obviously Sonic's moveset is the last aspect of the gameplay that's similar in both the adventure titles and the 2D classic Sonic games. And as you can see, the gameplay in both of these games is literally the exact same. And speaking of the exact same, let's get into the aesthetic and like storytelling and atmosphere of the classic Sonic games and the Sonic Adventure titles as well. Because this is the fun part, and this is where I really found a lot of similarities. So obviously with the Green Hill stuff, we know that one level is copying the other. The reason why they even put in Green Hill is because it was the 10th anniversary and they wanted to have a cool callback to the classic players. This much we understand. But as far as the aesthetic of Sonic 2 and 3 and Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, it's almost identical in a lot of aspects. Not every level is the exact same, but some of the shots I'm going to show you side by side are what I think the adventure games were drawing direct inspiration from the classic games. I won't break every single individual one down. That's actually what I want you guys to do. Like, if you guys see any parallels between Sonic 2 and 3 and the adventure games, please let me know what you find. Let me know if I missed anything. Like, as I was playing Sonic 3 and Sonic 2, there were parts where like, yo, I'm literally playing Sonic Adventure 1 or I'm playing Sonic Adventure 2. Like, I remember this exact scene, or this level atmosphere feels the exact same as it did in the 2D games. Some of the most glaringly obvious inspirations from the classic games are definitely in Sonic Adventure 1, because to me, Sonic Adventure 1 really is the 2D games just in 3D. Adventure 2 was obviously the sequel to this title, so they tried to do things a little bit differently. Obviously, the core gameplay mechanics are still intact, but as far as Adventure 1 goes, it's almost like a direct rip from the classic games. The first notable thing that I noticed is the conflict between Sonic and Knuckles in SA1. As you guys know, Sonic and Knuckles is all about that conflict as well, and we see a little bit of that same dynamic flesh out in SA1, where in both S3 and K and SA1, it's about Eggman tricking Knuckles into fighting Sonic, and we get to see that one-on-one battle in both games. When playing both games, I couldn't help but notice that similarity, and I feel like Sonic Team definitely intended for that to be the case. Like, they wanted players to feel that same level of continuity between the two games, so I always found that pretty interesting. And to piggyback off the Knuckles narrative a little bit, in both the classic games, we obviously have Angel Island falling and then re-rising again. You have the story arc with Knuckles trying to protect the Master Emerald and protect Angel Island, so that dynamic is present in both games. And speaking of Angel Island, we also have Ice Cap, where if you see these two scenes of Sonic snowboarding and Ice Cap in S3 and K and then SA1, it really goes without saying just how similar these games are, and it really kind of like clicked in my head and almost made my mind explode. I mean, maybe just for me, I don't know if it's that crazy or that obvious, but I just always found the continuity between these games so cool. Another glaringly obvious example of the inspiration from the classic games to the adventure games is the Sky Chase. We all remember Sky Chase. You either love it or hate it. Most people probably don't like it, but the aesthetic of it overall is pretty cool. And if you look at the 2D Sonic games, Sonic and Tails are flying on the tornado in order to board an Eggman battleship. And if you look at Sonic Adventure, Sonic and Tails are once again flying on the tornado to board an Eggman battleship. I mean, could it be any more obvious how similar these games are? You're typically breaking capsules to free animals in both the classic Sonic titles as well as the adventure games. You're always fighting some different form of an Eggman robot. Prime example will be right here in Sonic 1 and Green Hill, and even in the first fight in Sonic Adventure. These are just some core common characteristics that you'll see in the first 10 years of Sonic. But let's continue. We have a couple more points to cover. Now, this is one of the most crazy comparisons that actually triggered me to make this video. So when playing Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I was playing through the Sandopolis zone, and that's when it really hit me just how similar this is in Sonic Adventure 2 and obviously this game. Like, literally word for word, bar for bar, this is the same exact zone in both games. Let me explain. So it starts off when you're outside the pyramid in the sandy area, and this is actually the good part of this level. I actually despise Act 2. I couldn't help but sit there and think, wow, this reminds me exactly of Sonic Adventure 2 with the Tails level. Starts off outside the pyramid, then you work your way in. And then when you get inside the pyramid, there's dark areas with ghosts, and this is probably the most direct ripoff. Like, hello, dark pyramid, ghosts, and then you have to hit switches to unlock doors, which have a certain time limit for you to get through. Like, it really couldn't be any more obvious how similar these are. But the last part I will say that really takes the cake is that there's two golem bosses in both games. Like, when you were playing Sonic Adventure 2, did this not click off for you if you played Sonic 3 and Knuckles? Like, wow, I'm literally actually playing the same exact zone. To me, this is actually one of the more cooler comparisons that I found, and I just had to talk about it. Well, let's continue. I only have a couple more things to say. The last aesthetic comparison that I want to make is between Sonic 3 and Knuckles and Sonic Adventure 2, specifically towards the end of the game and the overarching narrative slash plot. For starters, let's take a look at Space Colony Arc, and then we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Death Egg. Now, the Death Egg has once again become its own separate entity, but at the time, Space Colony Arc and Death Egg look the exact same. We're literally looking at the same exact thing. So Sonic and friends have to go up into space in both games in order to confront Dr. Eggman on the Death Egg or the Space Colony Arc. Between Death Egg Zone 1 and Death Egg Zone 2, as well as Final Rush and Crazy Gadget, these are extremely similar levels. In Crazy Gadget and Death Egg Zone, they have the same exact mechanics where Sonic has to go upside down. He goes into like tubes and has to get shot throughout the level, and both of these take place in space. Need I say any more? And the final thing that I want to touch on with these two zones at the end is the Supersonic boss fight in space. Now, it's a little bit more cinematic in Sonic Adventure 2, obviously. 1, because it's in 3D, 2, because there's voice acting, 3, because the technology improved a lot since the 2D games, but the core principle is the same. All hope is lost. Sonic has to use the power of the 7 Chaos Emeralds to fly throughout space to beat the final boss. Once again, you look at 3 and Knuckles, and then you look at Sonic Adventure 2, you can't tell me that this is not a direct inspiration from both games. So why does this matter? Like, okay, old man, we get it. You made some cool comparisons, but we like Sonic Generations, we like Sonic Colors. Why are you even making this comparison? Well, I definitely want to tie all this together to one main point, but to be honest, this is why it matters. This is why it matters. This is why it matters. This is why it matters too. And look at Sonic Mania. This technically wasn't released during the first 10 years, but it's one of the highest received Sonic games. Why is that? Because the gameplay mechanics followed the core identity of Sonic, which was physics, momentum, speed, and replayability. Core identity matters. Now, to be fair, I'm not necessarily bashing the meta era. Games like Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations are really good, and it was definitely the necessary direction that the series had to take, especially after the whole Sonic 06 debacle. But the original gameplay mechanics and the overall aesthetic of Sonic are culturally iconic. It's important not to forget those things. And yes, if you do look at a game like Sonic Lost World, they did have that aesthetic, and I really don't like that game. But amongst many of the reasons why that game failed was definitely because of the gameplay mechanics, and it wasn't executed properly. So I get it, aesthetic isn't everything, but think about what makes Sonic Sonic. The best example of this would probably be the Sonic movie, which is by far probably one of the most successful Sonic products to ever be distributed. Especially in particular when you look at Sonic Movie 2. These movies were a lot of Sonic fans' first introduction into the series. So what did they do? Aside from this monstrosity that they were able to fix, they leaned heavily on the classic Sonic games for inspiration as to what aesthetic they were going for. I'll show you guys multiple shots, especially from the Sonic Movie 2 trailer, where they're taking direct inspirations or direct rips from the classic Sonic games. And this is no mistake, because what is culturally recognizable about Sonic? It's Sonic sitting on the tornado. It's Sonic fighting Eggman. It's Sonic, it's Tails, it's Knuckles, it's the Chaos Emeralds and the Master Emerald. Like, when you look around, do you see any wisps in this trailer? Do you see Infinite? Do you see Zavok or the Deadly Six? No, you see the things that are culturally recognizable about Sonic and just keeping him true to his original identity. This is why it all matters. Movies are expensive. Movies are extremely high budget. The reason why they're borrowing from the first 10 years of Sonic and not the latter 20, because most people will recognize that. They will not recognize a wisp. Because this is why it all matters. This is why we're tying it back to that central theme. The Sonic Movie 2 is slated to be one of the most successful Sonic products ever. And the reason is because they're leaning off inspiration from the classic games. So that is the end of my long-winded rant. And the last thing I'll say is this. Sonic Frontiers seems to be going in a completely different direction, and that is understandable and honestly required. But it would be a huge mistake to not incorporate some of those core gameplay mechanics. We need speed, we need physics, we need momentum. I hope the game is very replayable. I think it would be a huge wasted opportunity to not borrow from those gameplay mechanics. Like, why not borrow inspiration from some of the highest rated Sonic games of all time? To me, it makes no sense not to. So there you have it. Hopefully I've been able to debunk that lie that Sonic had a rough transition into 3D. Based off of all the evidence I laid out, it was a flawless and faithful transition to 3D. Between the gameplay, Sonic's moveset, storytelling, atmosphere, aesthetic, these games are a lot more similar than you think. Hopefully I was able to lay out some new information and new points that you found interesting. If you like this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more content similar to this. Also, make sure to get at all my social media, especially my Discord server, which is located down below in the description. Hopefully you were able to take away 1 or 2 things that you did not know, and I hope you guys have a new perspective as to why I love the adventure games as well as the 2D classic Sonic games. I would love to know what your guys' thoughts are down below in the comments, whether you liked the video, loved it, hate it, found something new, but I have nothing else to say to you guys, so until I see you guys next video, peace out.